Hello everybody, Bradley here, and today we are doing a city-state tier list video because people keep asking me for a city-state tier list video. So today we are making a city-state tier list video. Recently, I asked you guys on YouTube what kind of videos you would like to see. I'm just coming off my summer work schedule into a fall work schedule, and you guys gave me so many good ideas for a little bit more of the free time I have to make videos starting this month. And one of the themes that I noticed was that you guys wanted more tier lists, but less drunk tier lists. So I promise that bottle of whiskey behind me has not been consumed for this tier list. It's completely clean, just a big old bottle of water, an Nalgene of the good of nature's drink, you know? And we're gonna talk about city-states today. I apologize ahead of time for all the people that I have scarred with my drunk tier list videos. I promise you this one will be very different. Alas, we are here to the big question though. Which city-states do I love? Which city-states do I not like as much? Where do I rate each city-state as a deity player of Civilization VI? Before we hop into it, I just a few rules for all tier list videos. First, these are just my opinions. Other people may have different opinions. So before you type that comment, Antona Rivo is the best city-state ever. It's okay. It can be to you, and it's not to me. But that could be just something we have different. You know, we have lots of things in common. We both like this game. That can just be something we don't have in common. Nobody needs to get mad at anyone else in the comments for liking certain city-states over other ones. We are adults. The next rule is it's very hard to nail down a methodology for this because some city-states are naturally better than others in certain games, and some city-states are better than others depending on what type of victory you're going for. Obviously, in a science game, you're happier to see the science city-states than in a faith game. So for this, we're mostly going to be talking around the suzerain bonuses because those are what really differentiate each city-state from the other. So maybe in another video, we can talk really about which type of city-state, science, culture, faith, or whatever is better than the other ones. But for this one, we're just looking for suzerain bonuses, which bonuses are most worth throwing your envoys into a city-state to get. And lastly, I heard from a bird, it was a very weird bird, that liking and subscribing, you know, hitting that thumbs up, but like, I think it's like 60% of you aren't subscribed. What the are you doing, man? Hit that button, hit it so hard. All right, let's get into it. We have our tiers. S tier is for the best of the best. F tier is for the worst of the worst. And then everything else is somewhere in between. We are starting with a COD. I have my little list here. Let's see if I can pull it up for you guys. Whoop, I got my list of city-states so I don't forget anything that's happening. And I don't want to forget anything that's happening. First, we have a COD here. Melee and anti-cav units attacks do full damage to the city's walls. Now, I have two kind of problems with a COD here. First, regardless that it's kind of a combat focused city-state, it's literally only useful in a combat game when you are actively attacking walls. So that drops it down a peg. And then the next thing is I can just kind of build battering rams and stuff to get similar effects. I just don't need a COD as much. And then there's just only a small window in the game where being able to take down walls with units is very helpful. In most domination victories, at some point you end up with planes anyway to take down the walls. So I'm gonna go into the D tier for a COD. It's not a total F, you know, it's when it's useful, it's very, very, very useful. It's just never really that useful, you know? Next up, we have Anshan. 2 science from each great work of writing, 1 science from each relic and artifact. I love Anshan. It's a perfect kind of city-state. If you're in a culture game, you don't have a lot of culture city-states to be going for, Anshan is really, really good. In most games, you have a couple of great works of writing. It's not the best of the best. It's not the worst of the worst. What it does is it gives you more science based on something else. But if you're using this in a science game and you only have a couple of great works of writing because it's not a culture game, that's still 2, 4, 6%. I just like Anshan. I think it's a good little science boost in the right science game. I'm gonna go, oh man, I wish there was a C+ option, but I'm gonna push myself to not go in the middle here. I go for a B. It's definitely in the C or B range. I'll go B. I'm feeling pretty good about it. I reserve the right to move it down here later, but let's leave it at B for now. Antona Rivo, earn 2% extra culture with every great person ever earned up to 30%. What's amazing about this is that in a culture game where you're going for this culture city-state, you will have all of the great people you need to get that full bonus. So it just makes Antona Rivo so powerful in a culture game. It's a little less powerful in a non-culture game, but I'm gonna go overall. It's probably an A. I think it's better than Anshan for sure. Arma, the first faith one on our list here. Builders can construct the monastery improvement, which provides faith and heals religious units. I mean, whatever, sure, I don't do. Do I want to put something in the F tier? Like, okay, I don't think I've ever used this. Maybe there's a case for it. Someone can make their case for it in the comments. I'm not gonna make a case for it here. It's fine. Okay, D. D. It's a D. Maybe there won't be any Fs. Maybe we'll be nice today, but it's whatever. Auckland. Now, Auckland is perfect. I wanna read out what Auckland does here. Shallow water tiles worked by citizens provide +1 production, additional +1 production when you reach the industrial era. Every coastal game needs, like any Herald game specifically, really needs Coupe as well. Needs Auckland. Auckland transforms your options in any kind of map that's not a Pangea where you have lots of different continents, any kind of archipelago for anyone if you're playing Herald. I think Auckland on its best day is an S tier city-state. The problem is, ooh, see, this is tough because I mostly play on Pangea. And so I'm a little bit biased that Auckland isn't always that useful for me. But I think what it does is it on a coastal map, you have very few ways of making your shallow water tiles give you production. And Auckland does that. And that's just incredible. So S tier, A tier, it's somewhere in the A to S tier. Let's throw an A for now and see how I feel later. Ayutthaya, gain culture equal to 10% of the construction cost when finishing buildings. Ayutthaya is fine. It's a good wonder. I'm gonna give it a B. If you get it early enough, you're gonna get culture on all of the buildings that you build, which is nice, and I just think it's good. Bandar, Brunei. Your trading posts in foreign cities provide +1 gold to your trade routes passing through or going to the city. It's a little extra gold. It's not too much. I don't know. It's fine. It's okay. Let's go for a C here. I think that extra gold, if you have enough trade routes all going to the same place and they're all going through all of the same cities, then it can be very valuable if you have trading posts everywhere. The problem is establishing those trading posts can take a very long time early on in the game, and so you can't really use it that well early on. So I'm gonna go with a C. When it's good, it's really good, but it's just not very good that often. Bologna time. Bologna? I don't know how to say this thing. Your districts with a building provide +1 great person point of their type. This is just fantastic. It's like a little mini Oracle city-state. If you can grab Bologna, that's just awesome. I'm a fan. I'm a huge fan of Bologna. Let's go for a B. It's B or A. Is it better than Auckland? It might be better than Oh, I don't know if it's better than Auckland. If you have a lot of districts with a lot of buildings, it's just a lot of great person points. I'm gonna go with an A right now. I don't personally use Bologna a lot, but when I do use it, I do find it to be fantastic. So we're gonna go for an A right now. Brussels, you get 15% production towards wonders. What's going in the S tier, I wonder? Other than getting 15% towards buildings that you can only grab one time and that the enemy can grab from you. So building them quicker not only possibly saves you chops, not only possibly makes those chops even more worth it to make sure you secure that wonder, but opens up more wonders for you to take from the AI, thus increasing your possible ways to win the game. Brussels is an S tier wonder without a doubt. You should choose Brussels in every game you play. If they're there. They're amazing. Buenos Aires, just perfectly functional, perfectly useful, never a terrible city-state to go for. Your bonus resources behave like luxury resource, providing 1 amenity per type. You gotta love extra amenities from just bonus resources that you were gonna have anyway that weren't gonna give you amenities. And in a lot of games, amenities are hard to come by if you're stuck on a single continent, if you don't have a lot of cities, those types of things. And so let's go for a B. We're here with the Beatty improvement. Caguana. Builders can construct the Beatty improvement, which provides culture and tourism. Cool. I guess it's a C. It's fine. I've never, Beatties or whatever. They're okay. They're okay. They're okay. We're here with Cahokia. We can build the Cahokia mounds, giving us gold and housing. The housing here is so much more valuable than the gold, but I really, really love Cahokia. Getting a Cahokia mounds in each city is very, very helpful. Every time I Seuss Cahokia, I really make use of the Cahokia mounds. So I'm gonna throw it in the B tier as well. I don't think the Cahokia mounds are life-changing or transformative. They're also not really giving you anything, unlike the great person points. You know, housing can be pretty easy to come by if you just focus on it. I'm pretty happy to put it in the B tier there. Cardiff. Cities receive 2 power from every harbor building. Like, whatever. Like, oh my, what are we doing? What the are we doing? I'm trying to think of the best use case scenario for this. Because 2 power is not a lot. But theoretically, by the time you get to power, by the time you need power, you probably have a harbor with a lighthouse, a shipyard. That's 2 buildings at least, so like 4 power. So you're getting 4 power in your coastal cities. But is that really that helpful unless you are playing a very, very coastal game? I suppose the only reason this exists is because in those coastal games, when you're on an archipelago map, you don't have a lot of places to put industrial zones for power, but at that point in the late game, if you're playing well enough, you can just use offshore wind farms. And so is it too harsh to put it in F? I'm gonna say it's probably in the right game, which will be 1 in a million. It's probably like a C, but I'm gonna go with an F. I don't like it. I think it's bad, so it's an F. Cinquetti, it feeds your whole empire pasta. Just kidding. International and domestic trade routes receive +1 faith for every follower in this city of your founded majority religion. Good in the faith game. It's kind of helpful. It's not really that awesome though. Let's go for a C. Now Fez is fascinating because it's weirdly a science city-state but gets kind of faithy, and it's a bit tricky. When you use a unit to convert a city for the first time, gain 20 science per population of that city. The mathematical calculation on this is pretty hard because yes, in a way it scales. If you get Fez really early on, that 20 science is going to mean a lot more when you're not getting hundreds of science per turn, but the population of the cities is going to be a little bit less. But later when the population is higher, if you're still flipping cities for the first time, then the population is higher, but even if it was 10 population, that's 200 science. How valuable is that 200 science? So I think overall this is probably a C as well. In the right game where it's really working for you, it's probably very good. I can kind of mentally see that use case. I'm just not really vibing with it on a level where you're getting a transformative amount of science. I suppose though that in a faith game where you've gone for faith, holy sites and campuses share a lot of the same adjacencies, so maybe the thought is you won't have as much science. I'm not really sure exactly, but I'm gonna go with a C. I think that feels right. Geneva gives you 15% science when you're not at war with anyone. This is amazing. You're doing a science game, you're not at war with anyone, and all you want is more science? 15% more science is definitely an A, if not an S tier wonder. I'll leave it an A for now, but man, I don't know if it's quite as good as Brussels, but that is impressive. Granada here gives us Alcazars. If I'm remembering correctly, Alcazars give culture and science. Is it based on appeal? I want to say it has something to do with appeal. Yeah, based on the tiles appeal. I remember using Alcazars a lot in culture games. Peppermint Butler has some really good Alcazar use cases when he does his kind of no district tourism games, which are very, very fun to watch. When he's building a lot of woods, getting a lot of high appeal tiles, probably playing as Teddy to make double use of those high appeal tiles. I think in most games you have enough high appeal tiles that this is a nice get. I don't know if Alcazars are something you really rush for in many games. I'm gonna go, this is a true C+ here. Alcazars are one of the better, kind of in the Cahokia mounds territory. I think Cahokia mounds are better in more games. I'll go with a C, but I do think when the Alcazars are at their best, they're probably better than the Cahokia mounds, but I think the Cahokia mounds are more reliable, so that feels pretty good for me. Hattusa is just a fantastic kind of backup city-state to have. If you're in a domination game, getting the extra strategic resources that you see but do not own can be very helpful. You know, if you're in a domination game and you just need aluminum and you're not sure if you're going to get it, you want to nuke someone, you need uranium, but you're not sure if it's going to show up in your cities, I think this is great. It's a great, like, if you have a couple of city-states soused already and you have some envoys to throw into, it's hard not to say no to, or it's not hard not to say yes to Hattusa just to get more of those resources. But I find in most games that have Hattusa in them, I don't have many problems collecting the resources I need. And so I'm going to go with a C here. I think it's fine. I think it's good. I think that at least passively is doing something productive for you. But I think in most games, you're going to have a way to get the resources you need. And so the value isn't crazy there. Hong Kong, your cities get 20% production towards city projects. Very helpful in a game with a lot of city projects. What the best use case for Hong Kong is, in my opinion, is running all of the projects to give you more great people, right? And so you have a situation where in every city you have a couple of districts, you're nearing the end game, and you can just spam out those projects that give you more science, more culture, more gold, and more great person points for each of the things, which is super helpful. And so I think Hong Kong is probably at a B here. That's a very lovely use case scenario that's usable in all games, no matter which victory type you're going for. And so I think Hong Kong is in that B territory, although maybe an A in the right game, but I go B overall. Hunza's pretty simple. You receive 1 gold for every 5 tiles a trader travels on their trade route. D, I'm trying to think. I mean, that's maybe not too bad. So early on, you can only trade 15 tiles. I don't know. Even at a max range, it's 3. I don't know why I thought in my head it was 1 gold per tile for a second. I was like, that would be super overpowered. I go for a D. I'm trying to think of the best amount of gold. So if you have all your trade routes going like a max distance over water through a bunch of trading posts, let's say they're going 50 tiles. Let's say you manage to go 50 tiles for all your trade routes. I still don't know if that's enough gold to justify it in most games. I'm gonna go for a D. I don't think that's very good. You can tell I haven't used it often because I'm trying to figure out when you would use it. If I've never used it, then it's probably not very good. Jerusalem is fun in a way because it automatically converts to the religion you founded. So you just kind of have one city state that has your religion and it exerts the pressure as if it was a holy city. So that's very helpful as well. Only useful in a religious game though. And since I play on deity and almost never get a religion, I find Jerusalem to be terrible. I'm gonna go for an F. I don't think that's very good. Most of the time, city states aren't even in a good location to exert that holy pressure. And if you're relying on holy pressure to win you a faith game, you're playing it completely wrong. Absolutely terribly incorrect correctly. So I'm gonna go for an F for Jerusalem. Johannesburg can be pretty fun. Cities receive +1 production for every improved resource type. After researching industrialization, it becomes 2 production. A little bit of extra production, passively pretty good. It's good in all games. There's never a game where you see Johannesburg and go, oh, I don't want to do that. That's terrible. There aren't too many games where you go, oh, Johannesburg's on the map, we're winning this one, but it's just reliable Johannesburg, giving you little bits of production here and there depending on your resources. You're gonna have resources in all of the games, and so I think it's a C, maybe a C plus, maybe a B, who knows, up to you really, but I'm gonna go for a C here. I'm gonna be a little biased here with Kabul because Kabul is my favorite city-state, so I just want the disclaimer. The big red flags are waving. This is my favorite city-state to use, and so maybe I'm rating it too highly here. Your units receive double experience from battles they initiate. Not only is this very helpful in a domination game where you're going up against people, it'll win you a domination game. Getting double experience or getting to those 4 promo units very, very quickly. All your archers and field cannons and everything are going to be able to hit twice. All of your siege units are going to be able to hit and move on the same turn or get +1 range. There's so much good stuff there. But even in a non-domination game, I love being able to take my units to farm barbarians for a little bit and to grab that extra experience there. It makes it so easy to defend your empire because anytime someone attacks you, all of your ranged units are going to get to garrison almost immediately, so they can just sit in your empire. It's a very surprisingly versatile city-state, but in a domination game, it's the best one on the map to have, absolutely. I'm going to go for a B because I want to check myself, but whenever I use this bad boy, it's an A or an S tier. I think on average, it probably sits in a B plus range, but I'm going to go for a B for Kabul. Kandy is a wild city-state. The issue with Kandy is you have to get it as soon as possible, but you get a relic every time you discover a new natural wonder, so you want to get it before you discover them, but also the relics give you plus 50% faith. If Kandy is like the city-state that spawns right next to you, oh boy, is this bad boy fantastic. But if it's not, then it's kind of whatever, but relics are so powerful, especially if you can get them early on. Getting a bunch of relics early on in the game really changes the amount of ways you can kind of use your faith to win. You're going to get monumentality, you're going to be able to pump out settlers for free. When it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it's bad. But I think that the top tier is so good that I'm going to throw it in the B category. I don't think I've used Kandy more than once or twice to its full potential, but when it is used, it can be incredible. Kumasi, your trade routes to any city-state provide +2 culture and +1 gold for every specialty district in the origin city. This gets better as the game goes on. It doesn't start out particularly good. One of the things I really love about it though is that's a lot of culture from your trade routes. Anywhere you can acquire new culture is great. You don't have a lot of options for gaining culture. Also, not every map has a really great area to be putting a bunch of theater squares next to wonders and entertainment complexes and all of that stuff. So any new way to acquire culture is awesome, and this way is super passive. You're gonna have trade routes anyway. You're gonna be building districts anyway. I'm gonna chuck this right into the B category. It's never terrible to have. It's never gonna change your game and just make you win, but any kind of passive culture you weren't gaining before that you're now gaining is awesome, so it's going in the B territory. Lahore allows you to purchase a Nihang unit with faith. Now, I know people who swear by these units, and I swear that they're memeing. I have never once thought, you know what I need right now? You know what would be super helpful to my victory? The Nihang unit. If I have enough faith to be buying all these Nihang units, I have a million other things I could be using my faith on that aren't Nihang units. I gotta throw this in the F. That is wild, and I know people are gonna hate that. There are people out there that swear by this. I don't know who those people are, but they've been in the Twitch chat before. I go for an F. I can't remember a single time I've ever thought that this would be even remotely helpful in a game of Civ. I'm still trying to think of a situation right now where Nihang units are... Okay, I'm gonna look at the Nihang unit to make sure I'm not just full of right now. Nah, I'm not full of it. The Nihangs can be all right if you build the right stuff, but they're not. If you're relying on them for anything, you're not. No. Nope. F. Leventa, we can build the colossal heads. They give you faith, they give you tourism, and they're pretty bad. We're going to the D category. I think the problem with any of these things that give you tourism is that you can just build a national park on that tile instead in a game where you need a lot of tourism. And so it inherently becomes not as helpful because if you build something on the tile, then that tile can no longer go into a national park. And you want most of your spare tiles to be in national parks and not with colossal heads on them. So D sounds about right to me. Mexico City is low-key amazing and will not make any sense if you're very, very new to Civ, but once you kind of get familiar with the game, Mexico City can be awesome. Regional effects from your industrial zone, water park, entertainment complex reach 3 tiles farther. Let's get rid of the water park for a minute and just talk about the industrial zone and the entertainment complex. Having your industrial zone bonus production, that'll be from getting the factory, and your entertainment complex bonus amenities, that'll be from getting, like, the Coliseum's a good example, although that's not in your entertainment complex. The stadium's a good example for something that goes in your entertainment complex. But having that stretch from 6 tiles to 9 tiles is massive. It gives you so many more cities to give those bonuses to. A lot of people are already very strategic about where they put their industrial zones and their entertainment complexes to make the most out of it with the cities. I think it's more helpful for the industrial zones than the entertainment complexes. What I will say is that this is one of those just all reliable. It's never terrible to have it. The only problem, the reason why it's not going to go to B and it's going to go to C for me is because there's not a lot of games where I'm building lots of industrial zones and entertainment complexes. If you're the type of player that builds lots of industrial zones and you want that regional effect to hit more places, then it probably moves up a little bit. The other thing to consider too, though, is if you're building a lot of industrial zones and entertainment complexes, you're not going to need the regional effects from each one because they get a bit redundant. So I'm going to go for a C overall, but it is one of those old reliable ones. It never feels bad to just have it on the radar if you have some extra envoys to throw around. Mitla, improve city growth for cities with a campus. In my Civ games, most of my cities have campuses, thus giving me passive growth feels really freaking good. I'm gonna chuck this in the B category. Never feels bad to have, gives a lot of my important cities. Most of my campuses go in my earlier cities, gives a lot of my most important cities more population for absolutely free, and so I love that. Mogadishu's hilarious because it's happened twice on stream where I've forgotten I've had Mogadishu and I keep thinking the AI is bugged and not plundering my trade routes. Mogadishu allows your trade routes to not be plundered over water, so more helpful. It's a D. It's fine. It's okay. It's just funny when it happens because you think the AI is insane and not plundering your trade routes when in reality you've just forgot you've used Mogadishu. Overall, protecting your trade routes over water is not that helpful. By the time you're getting to the point where you have lots of trade routes over water, the barbarians that do most of the plundering are gone, and if you're already at war with all of these people that are going to plunder your trade routes, you're probably not sending trade routes to them because you can't. So it's just a weird situation where you have to be at war with enough people that your trade routes are always in danger, but not at war with enough people that you're trading over the whole map. It just feels a little clunky to me, so it's a D. But when it works, it's funny. I suppose city-states is another factor. You could be trading with city-states across the map. The point still stands. It's still a D, but I just wanted to say before someone commented it. It is now time for what I believe fireworks, explosions, rah, is the best city-state in the game. Mohenjo-Daro. Mohenjo-Daro changes the way you can play Civilization. It changes the whole way you can play any game on any map in a fundamental way. Your cities have full housing from water as if they were all next to a river. Let's think about that. In Civilization, you almost always need to settle cities on a river or on the ocean to get at least some housing, with the rivers giving you more housing than the coastal tiles. Now, not only do those coastal settles give you the same amount of housing as the river settles, making them way better, you can now simply just not settle on water. You can just not settle on water, and all of your cities that are not settled on water will now have all of that housing. It is incredible. It is easily the best city-state in the game. I will die. I will climb this hill and I will die on this hill that Mohenjo-Daro is the best city-state in the game. It fundamentally changes how you can position your cities. It allows each and every one of your cities to be precisely selected to be in the best possible tile that you needed, because you get rid of one of the main factors of having to settle cities, which is finding water to settle on. It means you don't have to build an aqueduct, which is awesome. And even if you do need to build an aqueduct, it's hard because your city doesn't have any housing, and so it's hard to grow to the point where you have enough production to even build the aqueduct. So Mohenjo-Daro, fundamentally life-changing for any game of Civilization. It is the top S tier. I'm not gonna make another tier. It's better than Brussels, I think. It is the SSS+ tier, if there was one. Muscat, all reliable. Bonus amenities in cities with a commercial hub. Amenities are hard to come by. Most of my cities have commercial hubs. Getting free amenities is fantastic. This probably sits in the B+ to A kind of area. I find in most games, I'm on one continent permanent and not on 2, so amenities are harder to come by, so I'm going to slide it into the A category. Muscat, low-key fantastic. When Muscat pops on the map, you don't go, oh my god, Muscat, but once you use it, it's great. Giving you passive amenities for cities with commercial hubs, which most of my cities have anyway, is perfect. Nalanda allows you to build the Maha Vihara improvements. It doesn't actually say there, but I believe these give you science, faith, and a little bit of housing. What I find interesting is with Cahokia Mounds, I value the housing very highly, and I think the reason is because the extra gold I'm getting unlocks a lot for me. So not only am I getting this housing, but instead of putting a farm down, I have other ways of collecting food. I usually don't have to worry about food, and so getting the extra gold can be very, very helpful. The extra science and faith is not enough science and faith that I find it super helpful, and I'm not sure why that is. Maybe I just have my priorities wrong, because when I just read about it, I feel like they should be pretty equal, but whenever I play, there's just a certain feeling I get where the Mahaviharas are just not as good as the Cahokia Mounds, and so I'm going to put them kind of separately, although they do give a little bit of housing, I believe. Someone will correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong, and maybe that's why I don't value them as highly, but I do believe they give you housing. I can just check. I'm just going to check. Yep, they give you 2 science and 1 housing, 1 faith for every adjacent holy site, and 1 science for every adjacent campus. And yeah, exactly. So you're getting that 2 science. The faith doesn't always happen, so that's fine. I just don't know why I don't value it as much. So I'm going to go for a C still, although the housing is why I really like the Cahokia Mounds, and I do value that quite a bit. So maybe my priorities are just wrong, but we'll throw it in C, although easily by my own logic should probably be a B. Now, medals, whatever. You know, I think it's your district's honor next to coast tiles provide +2 culture. I had that in my head. I didn't know how to say it out loud. You just never really have enough of that stuff on the coast in a game for that to be a life-changing amount of culture. Especially, you'd have to get Namadal right away and then Suze it right away to have 2 culture for each of those be a meaningful amount of culture. I'm gonna go into the D category. In some games it can be really nice, but in most games it's just really not. Nazca is one of those, again, kind of like Mohenjo-Daro, although not in as extreme a way. It changes the way you can play Civ. It allows you to build the Nazca line improvements, which go on flat desert tiles. They give you food, production, and faith. And getting those things on desert tiles, on tiles where you normally can't get them, it allows you to build cities with desert tiles in them and not have it feel terrible. But also, even in a Petra city can be very, very helpful combined with a Petra. And so I just think unlocking flat desert tiles to be actually usable from basically useless is very valuable. I'm going to put it in the B category. Whenever I do use Nazca, though, I'm specifically picking the right time to use it. So it feels like an A or an S tier wonder sometimes, or a city state sometimes. I go for a B. In your average game, you're just roaming around. You got a little bit of desert. You can make more use of it now. It's great. There are other city states you're looking for as well. I think Nazca is brilliant. Build some Nazca lines if you haven't. Try it out. I think you'll like them. Nagaz Garmu has one purpose, but boy, is that purpose helpful when it's helpful. Land, combat, or support units are 20% cheaper to purchase with gold for each encampment district building in that city. So you're playing a domination game or you're being attacked. You got a couple encampments in those cities. You have lots of buildings. You're going to get a gold discount. Units are very expensive. A 20% discount is very meaningful. This is another C plus here that I'm going to put in the C category. If you are using it, it probably feels better than a C. And if you're not using it, it probably feels like an F. So I think, you know what, C pluses or C is probably fine. Preslav, your light and heavy cavalry units have +5 strength when fighting on hill tiles. Cool. My biggest problem with Preslav is I'm typically not building that many cavalry units for my army. I need some ranged units, I need some siege units, I need some melee units to work with all of the battering rams and stuff, so I only normally have a couple cavalry units, and so that's mostly why I don't find Preslav to be that helpful. +5 strength on hills is meaningful, but just not overall that helpful, even in the right circumstances. Rapa Nui is interesting. You can build the Moai, I don't know how to pronounce it. What's cool about the Moai is it can be built on some tiles you can't normally build things on. I want to say volcanic soil is one of them. I guess you can normally build like farms and mines on volcanic soil. It's interesting. You know, it's an interesting fun fact anyway. I don't think the amount of culture they give you is meaningful. They do give you a little bit of tourism. Again, I think with the tourism, I'd rather put those tiles in a national park, but culture is culture. I think it's okay. It's kind of in like a C- area. I'll chuck it up in C because I'm feeling generous right now. I've never really used it to great effect, but I can see at least in my head what the optimal use case would be. So I don't know. It's okay. All right, this this is Samarkand, and with Samarkand, we can build the trading dome. I actually pulled up the trading dome here just to make sure I don't get it wrong. For the trading dome, you get +2 gold, +1 gold for every adjacent luxury resource. Pretty interesting. International trade routes sent from cities with trading domes generate +1 gold for each trading dome present. So overall, let's say you get your +2 gold for building it. It's next to 2 luxuries, which is generous. That's 4 gold. And then you send like 5 trade routes from that city. That'll be another 10 gold there. So you got around 14, 15 gold. I'm not sure that that optimal use case happens all that often. I don't actively dislike it. I just don't think the trading domes are that helpful per se, especially because they're taking up a tile that you could put a farm or a mine on. That's the same for all of these tile improvement city states. I just find the trading domes to be particularly meh, but I don't find them, again, this is all about feeling, because I think the Nahaviharas or whatever they're called here are better, but I can see how, I'm gonna put it in C because I don't want to contradict myself based on what I said over here, but when I use it, I kind of feel like it's a D, but I'll put it in C. Singapore is strange because it could be really good and just in practice never ends up being really good. Your cities receive +2 production for each foreign civilization they have a trade route to. In most games I'm playing on small, so that is 5 other civs in my map. So if I put a trade route in a city that needs 10 production, I have to send 5 traders from there to get that 10 production, and that's the maximum I could get in that city. And I probably don't have more than 5, 6, 7 traders in like a normal game of Civ where I'm not going for as many traders as possible. So I just don't think the full use case is there for the amount of production to be that meaningful, so I'm going to put it in D. Taruga, your cities receive +5% science for each different strategic resource they have. This is very interesting. My biggest problem with this is you don't really have a say about which cities have which strategic resources or how many. You kind of have to know early on. Like, it's one of those things where like the more you go through the game, the more strategics you can see, so the more you can be strategic. Haha. About which cities you build to maximize that. But on the other hand, it's a percentage scaling boost, and anything that scales by percentage can be very powerful. 5% science in a science game is a lot of freaking science. That's per luxury resource, not luxury, strategic, sorry. And so in a city like your capital city, you get iron, you get horses, and then you get a buttload of science in there. It's not a low amount of science. It's a pretty meaningful amount. I'm gonna go C+ into B for that. I just think there's enough strategic resources, and any kind of percentage scaling thing is very, 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 very good. And so I think B overall, although it kind of feels anywhere in here depending on the game you're playing. I love Valletta. I know this is going to be insane what I'm about to do with it. I'm going to put it in the A tier, and I'll tell you why. City center buildings and encampment district buildings can be bought with faith. Cost of purchasing ancient, medieval, and Renaissance walls is reduced, but they can only be bought with faith. I want to say it's 80 faith to buy ancient walls, so it's not a large amount of faith we're talking about here. Being able to purchase walls with a currency that I very rarely as a player use on anything else. I don't normally have a religion, but I do normally have a little bit of faith income coming in to see if I can get a monumentality. You know, sometimes I take void singers. It's just usually a little bit of faith coming in, and I can usually save up enough to buy walls in my cities. And buying walls in my cities instead of having to build them, A, make sure that I can build something else, but the underlying benefit here is when I place a new city down and I forward settle the enemy, I can instantly buy walls in a city that doesn't have a lot of production and would struggle to build them for a long time, making me almost impossible to just immediately take on. So this allows you to settle a lot of cities that you wouldn't otherwise be able to settle and build defenses in cities you otherwise wouldn't be able to build them. It helps with barbarians. This happens all with barbarians where you build a city like way far off near the tundra, and then the barbs spawn and they come and attack you and you don't have walls and it's a mess. 80 faith will fix that for you. I think Valletta is very powerful. Vatican City's cool. Again, if you're relying on this in your faith games, you're just completely doing it wrong. So I don't think it's actually that helpful for achieving a faith victory. When you activate a great person, they spread 400 religious pressure of your founded or majority religion to cities within 10 tiles. I think 400 pressure is a lot, and if you are going for a religious game, this is helpful. I just think if you're relying on it in a religious game, or if it's making a huge, very meaningful difference, you're probably not playing the religious game right. So I'm going to put it in C, although if you are new to a religious victory and you've never done one before and you have this. I think it probably feels like a B or an A and really helps you speed up and get going. But I think the Apostle Goon Squad strategy that I use doesn't really utilize this a whole lot and is probably the better way to approach it. Venice is one that I always think sounds good, but I never actually use very well. Your trade routes to foreign cities earn +1 gold for each luxury resource at the destination. In most foreign cities, this is maybe 1, sometimes 2 luxury resources. So you're just not getting that much gold. Even if you maximized all of it, it's not a whole lot of gold. I'm gonna put it in D. I don't think it's an F tier, but I don't think it's giving you nearly as much gold as it sounds like it's giving you, and certainly not a meaningful amount. Vilnius is fascinating. When you enter a new era, earn 1 random inspiration from that era. There's a random aspect to this where if you roll the right inspirations, ones that are difficult to acquire, then this becomes so much more valuable than if you were rolling ones that you acquire every game anyway. But also, the farther you get into the game, the more that bonus inspiration just allows you to snowball, even if it's one you were going to get anyway. If it's one you were going to get anyway, but you haven't quite acquired yet, it means you don't have to faff about in the rest of the tree while you're waiting for that boost to come in. You can just gun for what you were going for, then allowing you to snowball a little bit. So I think this is more valuable than I normally give it credit for, and I'm going to give it a B rating. I'm going to be honest, I've never once used Wolin in the game, ever. I'm not even sure what it does. I have no idea. Receive great general points when a land unit defeats a major or minor civilizations unit, and receive great admiral points when a naval unit defeats a major. What the cool? I mean, it's probably not an F. It's actually probably a D. I can see the snowball mechanic of this, where you are in a military game and you are just destroying units left and right, and then you are getting those great general points. My only complaint with this is I'm often, like, normally once you wipe out all the units, you kind of just roll over the AI from there. They don't usually build too many more to take care of you, and so I don't think there's a big snowball potential here. But I think having war passively give you the next great general or the next great admiral can be helpful. I think it helps take that away from the enemy, which it would be very helpful if they had it as well. So I'm gonna give it a D. It's certainly not an F, but I think even in its best case scenario, you're not really getting that much from it. All right, just 2 left. Eurovan. Your apostle units can choose from any possible promotion instead of receiving a random one. This will single-handedly win you a faith game. Getting debater and proselytizer on alternating apostles will create the 2 apostle goon squads that I'm talking about, which will then go and murder and pray away the enemy. This is an A tier wonder. It's only helpful in faith games where you got the apostles. I don't even care about that though. It's like Mohenjo-Daro, but Mohenjo-Daro is good in every game, and this is only good in one game. But in terms of the amount that it fundamentally changes how you can approach winning the game or settling your cities or playing Civ, it's incredible. It's the same thing, but this just only applies to a faith game. This applies to literally every game, which I gotta put it less than that, but oh boy, is it very good. All right, we have Zanzibar, the last city-state, and I'm gonna sneak it up into the S tier. This is probably an A tier wonder. However, whenever I see Zanzibar, I immediately gun for it. It gives you the cinnamon and cloves luxury resources. These cannot be earned any other way in the game and provide 6 amenities each. That is 12 amenities just being ushered into your empire wherever they're needed. This really helps keep some of your unhappy cities either happy or some of your happiest cities very happy, and make sure you have a lot of amenities in some cities that need them. This is valuable because we've already talked about how passive amenities are so good, because amenities can be hard to come by in a lot of Civ games, and making sure all of your cities are happy and pumping out as many yields as possible, or at the very least not giving you a yield decrease because of their unhappiness. It's very valuable. I realize it's probably not as valuable in every game as these 2, but I think it's more valuable than most of these in most games of Civ. This is probably an A+ or an S-, but I gotta put it in the S tier. Zanzibar is incredible. Use Zanzibar when you can. And that's a wrap, everyone. I came into this video knowing exactly which 3 I was going to put into my S tier. I'm surprised I had the fortitude to put Kabul in the B tier. But let me know what your ratings are. Let me know in the comments below. Let me know on Discord. Let me know on Twitch. Wherever you want to find me, there's links in the description. Let me know what your tier list is, what you agree with, what you disagree with, what you think I got right, what you think I got wrong. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. The next couple of videos probably be some gameplay mixed in. There'll probably be some more tutorials, but we'll do more tier lists in the future. I know you guys were excited for some of these, and this got requested a few times. I think that's it though. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Bradley. I hope we were able to help you with city-states today. Let me know what else you thought in the comments below, and we will see you in the next one. Cheers, everyone.